Start. Jai Hind to everyone. Today's session for international webinar is research methodology for manuscript drafting for the publication of engineering and science field student. Now I would like to introduce our respected speakers. Firstly, I am introducing our Honorable VC Sir, Dr. VP Singh. Dr. Vijay Pal Singh graduated from LLRM Medical College, Meerut in 1975, and soon after he joined the Army Medical Services. After 33 years of distinguished services, he retired from Army as a brigadier in year 2010. During his tenure in services, he served as various territories care hospital, including Army Hospital in New Delhi. During service, he did his post-graduation in the field of anesthesiology and PhD in anesthesiology from AFMC Pune University. He also did his postdoctoral certification course in cardiac anesthesiology from Premier Institute, AIMS, New Delhi. Now, I would like to request our Honorable VC Sir to please enlighten our webinar. Please, sir.
Jai Hind. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, I am audible, sir.
Okay. It's good that the College of Engineering, they have organized this webinar on research methodology and various aspects of the publications. Now, this is something research work or research, how it should be done, who should do it, how it should be done. All these things now become more relevant in view of the new education policy too, because things are already included in that, where they have the research foundation. Therefore, it is important that at all levels, at the higher institutions, we must conduct research, because we understand the importance of research. As the word suggests, research means you are trying to search something which is already there, and that's true in nature. And otherwise, whatever we are researching is already there. Only thing we have to research, we have to find out where are the gaps in our knowledge, the theoretical or practical, and therefore we cannot progress, or the country cannot progress, or the institution cannot progress unless we try to find out those gaps and research and come out with those newer things and implement in the right way, either it's college level or institution level, or at the nation at large. So I understand that today's webinar is going to be very good, wonderful, and the other faculty members and the guest speakers who have joined herein going to be very helpful to all those who are taking part in today's webinar. So I wish all the organizers, all the best. And I'm sure that it should be more of an interactive session rather than just we talk of theoretical things, because research is one area where many people are not very keen, because initially to start with it looks a little difficult sort of thing, that how to go about it, or they don't know the technology, methodology, how it should be done. Therefore, this is the opportunity for all those who are associated with today's webinar to exchange the ideas and see to it that the right kind of knowledge is imparted and shared their views, so that everybody is benefited, and in the long run it helps the institution and the country at large. So I wish all the best to the organizers. Jai Subharti, Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. Now, I would like to call our international speaker, Dr. Fatma Mohamad, who is Associate Professor in the Department of Informatics and Computing from the University of Zainal Abidin, Malaysia. She is Doctor of Philosophy in the Computer Science. She completed her bachelor degree in Information System and Management from Oklahoma, USA. She is a member of International Association of Engineers. She has published more than 40 research papers in international conferences along with the journals. She received gold medal in the year 2014 and 15 in the field of informatics and computing. She worked as an advisor for the development of robots and automation technology for Robot Techno Robotic Institute in Indonesia. I would like to request her to please give us information on research methodology for the student of engineering and science.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. Okay, let me share my slide. Okay, I hope you can all see my slide now, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible to us.
All right. So I was told this webinar actually is specifically on the science or engineering field. So I try to make my slide to meet the expectation on the science or engineering. So I come up with this title, which is Science or Engineering Research Methodology for PhD. Okay, like mentioned by the organizer just now. Okay, thank you. Okay, me as and currently as the associate professor from Faculty of Informatics and Computing, University Sultan Zainal Abidin in Malaysia. Okay, actually this topic is so near to us, especially for the students who just started their journey in the PhD. Okay, so I just begin with the outline of my talk this morning. Okay, I believe morning, yeah, in India. In Malaysia now is almost 1:30 p.m. Okay, so we will begin with some sort of introduction. What is the research methodology? Types of RM, and actually this talk is concerning what is the research methodology as a whole, and then what stages that we need to have in order to complete our research methodology before we started our journey as a PhD students until we wrap up the station. Okay, now, okay, first we will start about what actually the research is. So we are talking about research, doing research on this one, how we want to research on the, for example, on the new development of the, even engineering, for example, new development of the house, for example, the new design of the house, research. So in we have this like the research actually is the systematic process. It is a process. So the keyword here is the process. It is the stages. It is the how to do, how we want to do it step by step. The processes, that is the research. So it's like the systematic process of collecting and analyzing information. In this case, it's data. We're talking about the raw data first before we experimented it. We process it to become the meaningful information. In order to increase our understanding of the phenomenon about which we are concerned or interested. So that's why when we want to embark on the journey of a PhD student to do a research, okay, first thing first, we need to know, okay, what field, what area of study that we are interested to begin with. So that is the first step. Okay, I just share you with this picture because I know some of us, the PhD students, okay, maybe if you got your master's degree fully research, in full research mode, you have some sort of idea of how to start. But if you are new to the research mode, okay, maybe you took your master's degree in mixed mode or in taught courses, so you have no idea how to start, how to begin. Okay, so this photo tells us, how we are so stressful, do not know which book to read, and everything. So we are so This got I got from the Princeton University. So that's 1,000 words here. All right. So now, okay, we have talked about we talk about the research. What is actually the research? Now we go to the research methodology. Research methodology actually. Some university, I'm not sure in India, but in Malaysia, most of the university, okay, they required the PhD students to embark or to do to take the research methodology courses before they are fully allowed to begin their research in PhD. So this is a requirement in Malaysia. So usually the research methodology courses will be some university they put it in credits and some credits, and some are just attending. But in the end of the day, okay, they need to undertake a certain examination to evaluate the comprehension of the understanding of the research methodology before the student embark into their PhD journey. So we go to the research methodology. It is how a researcher design her study to meet the objectives. Of course, now you know that you want to do a PhD in engineering, for example. So you know already the area of study is engineering. But I believe in engineering there are many types of engineering. The subset of engineering itself. Maybe you want to embark the research into mechanical engineering, maybe electrical engineering, design, for example, manufacturing. So that's why the research methodology is actually is a plan. It's an initial plan, a proposal, which is a good proposal. Design how you want to embark into the study from the beginning until the end of the study. So it will involve processes from the beginning till the end of study, and along the way, okay, after you got the the data, and then you need to experiment it, and of course you will get the result, and that results must be verified and also validated along the way. So this is the how it works, and then the plan must also have must be systematic and orderly. Meaning here, it's kind of like you read a novel. You cannot just be jumpy from one chapter to another. So that if you just be jumpy, so nobody will understand what you're trying to say. So it's kind of like your thesis. Your thesis must be in the right order. First, you must have the introduction. You introduce what you're going to do, what you're going to write in your thesis. To the examiners or to the readers, to the laymen. And then after that, you need to maybe tell them, okay, what kind of a problem that we need to solve. And then design, go to the methodologies and so forth until you get the result. And last but not least, to conclude everything. So the research methodology actually have the main purpose, which is we want to get a new knowledge, which this new knowledge must be reliable, right? So we go to the several types of RM. RM is the short form of research methodology. Okay, so we have several types here. We have the causal, comparative, experimental, historical, ethnographic, action research, survey, and correlational. Okay, usually for the science or engineering students, okay, usually we will take up the experimental result, and that's why the types of experimental is so near to the science or engineering students compared to historical. Historical usually for the social science students or arts students who are studying the arts or the civilization, for example. Ethnography also for the social science student. So we just focus on the experimental on this top, as science students. Now we go to the stages. Okay, we have several stages. Actually, I have mentioned actually the stages of the research methodology. And then, but in here, okay, we can see that, okay, in general, research methodology consists of how we do our literature study. First thing, when you know what kind of area of study that you want to embark on, okay, you should know, you should find more information, okay, on that area of study. Why? To help you in order to come up with a right research gap, and later on to propose your own problem statement, which is very important in the study. Okay, how to do that? You need to do a lot of reading. Okay, I always tell my student there are three things. Okay, when you begin your study, first you need to read a lot. Second, you need to write a lot. And then third, you need to compare a lot. So three things: read, write, compare. Okay, read here because you want to see. Now you already know you want to do an engineering PhD. Okay, you might go to the literature. Okay, to the some work from other researchers who are doing also in engineering to get some insights of what to do next. And then when you get that information, you need to jot down the important notes. Okay, after that, okay, you need to compare. Like myself, whenever PhD students coming to me to do the PhD under my supervision, okay, first I will ask him or her to read, write, and do a comparison table of at least 60 studies in the literature, in the area of study. The most current, most current usually we take up the latest 5 years, 5 years back. And then after that, we go to the research method. We need to take out a right method, right method to do our research. After that, we need to, after we get the data, go to the data collection and so on. We need to do the experiment. So we do the implementation until we get the result, and then we discuss critically the result that we got. Okay, so you need to ensure that the result is meeting the set objective that we set during our proposal. And then last but not least is the conclusion, also the future work, right? So we will go one by one. Okay, first we go to the literature. Okay, like I said, literature study, or some say literature review, or current work and current study is the same. Okay, what is actually the literature study? It is a broad, comprehensive, in-depth, systematics, and critical review of scholarly article in the area of study. Like I mentioned before, okay, you need to do a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and do a comparative study. You need to compare between the existing researchers, okay, in your area of study. Until at the end of the day, you will get your own gap, and you will propose your own problem statement. Okay, so in order to do that, you need to critically review the studies done presently. Okay, and Mariam in 1988, okay, she said the definition of literature review is an interpretation and synthesis of a published work. Okay, so the keyword here is interpretation, and after you interpret, you need to synthesize, synthesize the interpretation. And another keyword of a published work. Why published work? Because when we got our work published, so everyone is know that our work is being evaluated. Okay, and so that's why it's important for us, okay, throughout the journey of your PhD, whenever you got any result, you need to publish your work, so that you can claim, okay, that findings is yours. Okay, then provide an overview of what has been carried out and who done that. So you know already when you read from the literature, what kind of study in engineering that people are currently doing, what is the trend, the current trend, okay, and who did that one, So this is all about literature. Like I said, from the literature, we can get the research gap. Now, what is the research gap? So when we got the literature, the current study from the other researchers in our area of study, okay, we need to do some comparison in terms of the technique or model use, maybe the accuracy, the performance, if any, limitations, if any. So from that comparison, okay, we know already what they are already doing, what they are still not doing, what they are still not solving. The still unsolved problem will become the research gap. So a research gap basically is a question or problem that has not been answered by any of the existing studies or research within your field. How to know that? You just go back to the literature study and do a lot of reading, writing, and comparison. Okay. Sometimes a research gap exists when there is a concept or new idea that hasn't been studied at all. That's why at the very beginning of the study, it's very important for us to read a lot so that we know what happened in the area of study. Sometimes it just clicked to our mind that, oh, I think if people are researching on the new design of the house, okay, for example, nowadays the trend is people are talking about tiny house, tiny house. Or everybody are dreaming about having a tiny house, but there are some issues of tiny house, maybe in terms of the air circulation, how you want to reduce the heat, for example. So from the literature, okay, you can have your answer on that one. If there are still not study being done on that thing, so you can have and propose that one as your problem statement to solve. How you want to solve, how you want to reduce the heat by proposing a new design, for example, and that new design haven't been discussed in any literatures that you have been studying. Yeah, okay. Or perhaps a specific population has not been well studied. For example, there are studies on the teenagers and video games. You know, teenagers with the video games like nowadays, almost everybody has a smart. The teenagers are, with the gadget, yeah, and then, but there are a lot of study on that one. The disadvantages when the teenagers are focusing on the video games at all time, they might neglect their studies, and also they might reflect to the eyesight. But there is maybe not enough study on toddlers, because nowadays it's not only teenagers, but the toddlers, and some parents, they just when they are trying to concentrating on something, they just give the phone, the gadget to the toddlers, maybe 4 or 5 years old, to make them, quiet, for example. So there is not enough study on toddlers and video games, for example. So this will become your chances, will become your opportunity to embark on the new problem in hand. Or in short, a research problem discovered after you conducted a rigorous literature review. So you know what happened out there. All right. Now, how to formulate the research problem? So this is another important thing. Okay, usually I will give the talk on research methodology on certain aspect actually. Like for example, how to formulate a research problem, how to do research on the quantitative research or qualitative research. So, but today, never mind. I try to touch. Maybe it's not in very deep because we don't have limited time here. We have limited time here, but I will try to touch on certain aspect so that we have some insights. Okay, problem formulation. Okay, when we do the the research methodology, the literature study, at the end of the day, we want to produce our own problem statement. But before we go to the problem statement, we need to formulate our problem by using the background of study. Or if you come up with a thesis or the proposal, and you need to come up with the background of study or the introduction. So, the problem formulation actually is you're taking from the information from the literature study that you have done, okay, but very similar. The study which is very similar what you're going to do. All right? Okay. So you study, you take out what they do, what kind of approach that they are using, what kind of techniques, what kind of performance that they got, or maybe the limitations. Okay, you need to study on that one because you need to have the rationale when you go on and study, do some explorative search, and maybe you got some new idea how to begin with. So the aim is to set a framework for your research, and a good problem formulation is essential for completing a good study, because in the problem formulation you can compare. You can compare within the very near to your study, okay, until at the end of the day you come up with your own problem statement. Okay, that is problem formulation. Now we go to the problem statement. Like I said, the outcome of the literature study. Okay, what is problem statement? Okay, some people say it is the heart of the thesis. Why the heart of the thesis? Because it will provide you direction of the overall thesis. Okay, if the problem statement is wrong, then everything in your thesis will not become right. So that is why it's very important. You got a very correct problem statement to go on with the processes until you finish all your thesis. So how to get the problem statement? Like I said, from the problem formulation got from the literature study. So you want to you want to find out about the what kind of current issues, gaps, opportunities that is currently exist in the literature in your area of study. So this is the aim of doing the study on the problem statement. Okay, and the problem statement usually is very short. Why short? Because it is actually a summary of the problem formulation that you did before. In problem formulation, you got A is telling this, B is telling this, C is telling this, they got this kind of result, everything. But then in problem statement, you need to summarize from all the problems mentioned in the literature, what are the main problem that is still not being tackled. So that will become your problem statement. That's why the problem statement usually do not exceed 1 page. It is very short, within one paragraph, within 1 page only. You just summarize from the findings in your literature about the current study, current problem, and you take out only the main problem who is still unsolved, and that will become your problem statement. Okay, because why? You need to validate the value of your research. Okay, but what makes you think there is a problem? Okay, and has the systems ever performed well? So how do you know? Like I said, you need to go back to the literature study. Do a lot of reading, writing, and comparing. And can the performance degrading be expressed in terms of latency or runtime? So all of these questions will be answered when you do a thorough study on the current literature. Okay, does the problems affect other people or applications? Constructed sentence, how you describe your research problem, which is usually a subset of your research problem, which is you got from the research background. Okay, like I said, it's very short statement, okay, of problem that used in research to claim the outlines of the problem addressed by your thesis or by your study. So a good research problem should address an existing gap in knowledge in the field and lead to further research. That's why, like I said, you do a literature study and then you come up with the research gap and then later on the problem statement. Okay, the formulation of a research problem is more essential than its solution, because formulating a research problem is similar to doing proper diagnosis for a sick person. Okay, you have this kind of sickness. You go to the hospital or the clinic to see a doctor. The doctor might ask you, okay, for example, you have food poisoning. The doctor will ask you, okay, what kind of food that you have previously, for example. Okay, from that, the doctor will do a diagnosis, a correct diagnosis until he will give you a correct medicine to cure your sickness. Okay, so it is the same with the research problem. So that's why we need to do a proper step to find out until we got a very good research problem of our own. Okay, I give you, I think I have here 2 examples of a problem statement which I got from my student. Okay, the first, the accuracy of the device will be measured by the difference between the pitch of a tuned string and the correct pitch. The limits should be well within those of a guitar that has been professionally tuned and then played for 1 week without further tuning. Okay, this study, okay, from the literature, they got to find some information about the relationship of a pitch of a tuned string with the correct pitch. Which one is correct pitch? And then they will know when the relationship is established. So they know already, okay, the pitch of the tuned string is about what is the advantages of having that? What is the limitation? What is the maybe what kind is a tuned string which is good to use, for example. So this is how they got, okay, from the literature. But I think this is not one of the best problem statement, because still we have some things to look at when we do the problem statement. Okay, the second one is a bit lengthy. It's a bit lengthy. Okay, this study actually they provide a virtual reality applications, okay, to help the stroke patient. The stroke patient from the literatures. Okay, they find based on the current literature. Okay, one thing that I forget to mention. There are some school of thoughts about how to come up with a good problem statement. Okay, some school of thoughts they will say that it's okay to put the references in the problem statement. Okay, some said the references should be left behind in the formulation of the problem. Okay, so in order to me, as long as it is not too lengthy and it is based on the literature, okay, and you need to really discuss with your supervisor which one to use. And some university, they already have their own guidelines their own guidelines, their own format. Okay, so you just need to follow the guideline of the university. Okay, so on this one, okay, they are still mentioned the findings, okay, the problem got from the three research, for example, from Lopez, okay, and Cam Major, and also another one, PA. So from these three research until they come up with the research gap mentioned by these three research until he come up with his own problem statement. Okay, so like I said, there are a few school of thoughts, but for me, okay, as long as maybe in the background, problem background, a problem formulation, okay, maybe you have comparing a lot of research there, and then you take out the main research and you summarize. No need to put the references in the problem statement. Okay. So in summary, the formulation of a research problem should reflect the quality of SMART. And what is SMART? S is specific, so meaning that the problem must be specific. You cannot solve a problem which is too broad. For example, you want to do a research on the poor people. Okay, of course, the domain is the poor people. But what kind of research that you want to do with the poor people? It is too broad. So you must be very specific. For example, you want to reduce the poverty by providing a technique or a model to increase the economy of the poor people, for example. M is the measurable. So the problem must be measurable. So they must have some measures, okay, either time measures and cost measures in order to come up with this research. And A, attainable or achievable. The problem or the research must be achievable. Okay, you cannot just say that, okay, I want to plant a tree on the cloud. So maybe you will see that, oh, the cloud, maybe the cloud can grow a plant, maybe. But how to do this, how to prove this, you must go back to the literature, which is if nobody do that kind of things, so there are actually means to take. Okay, first, that is too hard to do, okay, too costly to do, or it is not achievable, not realistic. And last but not least is the time bounded. You must have the time frame to do the research, beginning from what year, what date and year, until the ending year or date. So you must have the time frame. You cannot just do anything without any time frame, because why? That will become you as a demotivated person, believe me. And it must have the time frame. Otherwise, we just need to chase the time. Okay, now we go to the research method or the methodology. Okay, what is methodology? It is actually a specific procedures or techniques used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about a topic. Some people say actually the methodology part is the design, research design. It is how the steps you undertake in order to design your whole thesis, your whole study. And it consists of steps, stages, models, procedures, conceptual framework, or maybe the flow chart, or maybe the algorithm. So it is all in methodology. And methodology actually, if the problem, research problem is the heart of the thesis, the methodology actually is the brain of thesis. Okay, in here, you need to conduct a specific steps, specific processes, the correct one in order to make your results validated and verified. Okay, if you get correct methods, then the results will not be questioned more, or vice versa, especially during your viva voce. Yeah. This is actually, I think, this is one example I got from my student for the methodology. Okay, this one is the conceptual design. Conceptual design shows overall process, the components related in your study, or overall picture. So whenever people look at your proposed conceptual design, okay, they know already, oh, this is what you're going to do in this research, for example. So another example, this one I think from my PhD student. Okay, he do a face recognition. The face recognition, how to detect the face recognition. Okay, by providing another conceptual design, proposed design actually. So that's why the methodology is the chapter why you propose your own work. There is no more work you take from the other researchers, from the literature. If maybe one or more work that you need to refer to, which is so important, so maybe one or two is acceptable. But most of it in literature, in the methodology chapter is your proposed work. Yeah, so like this. So people know that, okay, this is the model that he proposed. And the rest will be explained later on in methodology chapter. And this is also in methodology, how they show the processes, okay, that done throughout the thesis, okay, through the flow chart like this. So for example, the input images, and then after they got the images, what do? They need to do the pre-processing and so on and so forth until finish the stages inside the whatever phase in your proposed design. Right? And another example is, like I mentioned, algorithm. Okay, so maybe it is depending on what kind of study that you are doing, which kind of methods that is most suitable to your, with your study. So you can propose either be it in the form of algorithm or flowchart. Usually algorithm and flowchart are the subset of the phases or the stage that you provide in your proposed framework. All right. Okay. So actually the research design in methodology, you need to design, do a proper steps, proper processes following the research objective until you got the outcome, outcome of each of the objective. All right. Okay, if you can't describe what you are doing as a process, you don't know what you are doing. Okay, this I got from DMIT. Okay, so you need to ensure that you are fully understand what you are doing. I believe that if you are doing PhD, you do all the steps by yourself along the way. During the viva voce, okay, you won't have any problem to answer the examiners, because you know by heart every single things that you put down in your thesis. Okay, a good plan is like a roadmap. It shows the final destination and usually the best way to get there. That's why we need to have a proper design to do it. You cannot just be jumpy. If you want to read chapter 1, read chapter 1, and then go to the implementation at chapter 4, for example, and then finish it. Cannot. Okay. And otherwise, if we do that, we do not know what is actually there in the thesis. Okay. Okay, like I said, for the methodology, okay, at the end of the day, before you embark into your real study, real journey as a PhD student, you need to come up with the research proposal. I think most universities, I'm not sure in India, I believe the same, I think. Research proposal or research proposal defense is a must, is a requirement, okay, in most of the university. In UNISA, in our university, usually the PhD students or masters by research student, they need to defend their proposal during semester 2. During semester 2, meaning that at the very first year of their study. Okay? All right. So what is research proposal? Okay, it is a proposal to propose a research project that will result in a significant contribution to knowledge. You need to, during your proposal defense, you need to convince the evaluators, the assessors, okay, that your proposal is worth or up to the standard of the PhD study. Otherwise, you need to redo the proposal, or they might advise you to, if it is not to the standard, either you need to revise or they advise you to do a master's of philosophy instead of PhD degree. Yeah. Okay, to formulate a detailed plan of the project, including a methodology approach and also theoretical framework. Okay, so you need to have a proper design, step by step. It's like a house plan. You cannot just do the house like that. Okay, do the roof, do the the wall, and then the base with cements, for example. Just like that cannot. Okay, maybe if you are good enough, the house is just there, a good house. But believe me, if you do not have any proper design, okay, if anything goes wrong, so it's hard for you to tell which to start to look at the error, the mistakes, okay, that happen during the development of that house. So it is also the same with the research. So that's why we need to have a proper research proposal, proper plan, okay, in order to convince the assessors that we are going to do this, we are going to achieve this kind of contribution at the end of study, which is up to the PhD standard. Yeah. Okay. Also to ensure that the proposed research is achievable within the required time and with the available resources. Okay, so they know already. Usually in our proposal, we have what? We have the introduction or background of study. We have what? We have the problem formulation, problem statement, research question, and then we have the objective. We have the scope of research or research scope. Okay, so why it is important to put a scope? Like I said, the study must be specific. Okay, if you do not put the scope, the examiners will assume that you must put everything in your thesis. But if you do mention that you have the scope of the study, you only, for example, cover the poor people in Southeast Asia, not the world. So the questions during your Bible will say at the end of your study is just concerning within that scope only. They won't question more. Otherwise, you'll be in a very deep problem. Okay. To demonstrate that you have adequate expertise and experience to undertake the project. Okay, so that's why it must be very thorough. It must be in orderly. Yeah. Okay. Now, Why research proposal? Like I said, you must follow the guideline and format from your registered university. Every each of the university, they might have their own guideline and format. So um, and the research proposal actually, the one, if there is any no changes, okay, it is the one that you put in your chapter 1 in your actual thesis. Okay, there's some sort, maybe a little bit of changing, okay, where and there. And it is important to defend your study or research. Okay, like I said, you need to convince the examiners. Okay, your study is important to do because it provides the contributions to the community of tiny who love the tiny homes, which is become the I think the trend nowadays. But to reduce the heat by using whatever component on the roof, for example. So you need to convince the examiners and to do that in the proposal defense. And also you must convince the committee that the study is worth to be conducted. And last but not least, like I mentioned, you also justify whether the research scope is adequate for PhD or not. All right. Now, what should be included in the research proposal? Okay, like I said, okay, it is depending on the university. Okay, like I put here, actually is the general one that usually be put in the research proposal. But some universities, they have maybe different requirement. So you need to really go into your university guideline or formatting. First one is the title. Of course, title, I think everybody title is a must. So that you must have a specific title topic to begin with, and then the abstract. Okay, abstract is also important because abstract actually is the summary of what you are suggesting to do. In abstract, usually we have 5 components. Okay, we have the introduction, the problem, and then the methodology, what kind of methodology that you want to use, and then maybe the result of discussion and the conclusion. So of course, when you are defending your proposal, you still don't have the result, but you can mention, okay, you are proposing this study, and these are the expected result that you hope to get at the end of the study. And then after the abstract, of course, you will begin with the introduction. Okay, the introduction first. Okay, why you are doing this study? What is actually the study is about what? Okay, and then the motivation or importance of study. Why it is important? Because you need to convince the examiners. You need to convince the assessors that your study is in great demand nowadays. For example, you are proposing a study on the COVID-19, how to combat the COVID-19, for example. So it is important to include the why, so that the examiner will say, oh, this is important, so you should proceed. If it is not up to the today's demand, maybe the examiners ask you, okay, why not you change this domain into another domain, for example, another case study, for example. So this is after your presentation for the proposal defense, you might encounter this kind of things. Either you need to recorrect or redo, or maybe you need to change the direction of your study. Okay, and then after that they might have the problem statement. Okay, like I said, problem statement is a must. Research question, but some of the study, they don't require the research question. It's up to the discussion with your own supervisor and the university. And then research objectives. Okay, usually research objectives, I myself was appointed several times, I think many times also, to examine the PhD thesis from either Malaysian universities or overseas. Okay, some of the research objectives that I encountered is some of them are stating a very, I mean, maybe 5 or 6 research objectives, too many of them. So that's why I will advise my students, okay, just limit to only 3 or 4 at most research objective. Why? Because that will become the direction or the scope of your study too broad. Because PhD study is not like undergraduate study. You need to be focused. You need to go into detail, go into deep, dig deeper. You're not going broader perspective. It is not PhD. So that's why if I were the examiner, I will advise the student to change the objective to only 3 objectives at most. But I say, like I said, it is depending on the university. Some university they have their own guideline. Maybe they will just allow it. So if anything, you just need to discuss with your own supervisor about this. And then go to the methodology. So you need to select the correct methodology to begin with. For example, maybe you need to find specific classifiers or algorithm in the methodology, which is suitable with the area of study and which is also must be suitable with the kind of data in your data collection process. Okay, and then last but not least is the contribution of study before you conclude the study. Contribution of study is also very important because you need to convince the examiners study is very important because they give a great contribution to the society, for example. Yeah. Okay, so I just share you this chart actually, this chart, the research from the research problem. Okay, we go to the research design, we need to design, and then after that, methodology, maybe in specific approach, specific algorithm that might to be adopted until we get the research result from the research. Okay, now we go to the results and discussion. Okay. Result and discussion. If in thesis, usually we have chapter 1 for the introduction, chapter 2 for the literature study, chapter 3 is the methodology, chapter 4 is results and discussion, and chapter 5 is the conclusion future works. Okay, that is the common one, but like I say, it is depending on the guideline from your registered university. Okay, so in results and discussion, we already have a design, okay, in a methodology chapter. Okay, now we need to do some experiments to prove it. Okay, we design, but this actually we must follow strictly on the objective that we already set, okay, in the beginning of chapter. Okay, so the actual work from the standard design is coming from the methodology chapter. You need just to follow suit, meaning that you need to follow the exact flow from the chapter 3, from the methodology chapter, from the design. Okay, so every step, every process, so you need to do the implementation. If us science people or engineering people, okay, we need to do some experiments. Some experiments, and usually we use the quantitative methods. Yeah. Okay, even though some of us we might want to mix between the qualitative and quantitative methods. Usually, maybe before we embark on the experiments, okay, we might need to do some interview to get some initial data by using the qualitative methods. But most mostly science or engineering students, okay, we are using the quantitative methods. Yeah. All right. Now, in results chapter also consists our experimental results, like I said, and it is based on the objective, meaning that objective number one to get what. So you must have the result out of objective number one. Objective number two, for example, to find the components that can reduce the heat, for example. Eh? So you need to have that kind of result on that said objective. Yeah? So, and you must follow the flows from the methodology chapter, like I said, and must contain the presentation of data, either um, data findings or investigations, either in the form of chart, or in the form of mathematical formulas, or in the form of matrix, or in the form of table, images, so on and so forth. So this is how we visualize the experimental result that we got. Right? Now I'll show you some examples of the results. Mainly I got from my student, my student thesis. Okay, this is like I said, is the chart. It's the chart. Okay, sorry, I didn't put any label here. It's the chart. Maybe the result will become this kind of the chart like this. Okay, but you need to elaborate what is the meaning of this result that you got. Yeah. Or maybe the result you just have to come up with mathematical equations like this. Uh, for example, but you need to really explain what does it means. Otherwise, the layman, if it is the experts in your area, they might seems to understand if you just put the equation like this. But for the layman, okay, when they say, when they read your thesis, okay, they might not understand a word, what you're going to say. If you just put the mathematical equation like this, without any proper explanation. Yeah. Then I think we go to the conclusion. Conclusion chapter after we got the implementation in chapter 4, which have the results. So we need to elaborate the results. We need to discuss the results that we got. Okay. We need to ensure that result that we got is meeting the objective that we set, okay, at the beginning of our proposal, research proposal. Okay. Then this is the last chapter actually regarding the conclusion and also the future work. Okay, this one actually is the last. Like if you are writing your thesis, it is the final chapter of the thesis, or we call it a wrap up chapter, because it's kind of like you summarize everything that you wrote, okay, throughout the thesis, the previous chapters in the thesis, okay, and you do a summary there in the final chapter. And you need, in this chapter, you need to highlight the thesis contributions and the strengths of the contributions, strengths of the thesis, okay? Because why? You need to convince, after you finish writing up your thesis, you need to send out to the examiners, that is examiners to read the thesis, to evaluate your thesis, until, okay, when they got their thesis, okay, they need to examine your thesis, they need to really understand what you are writing. You need to convince them that you have the enough and sufficient contributions for PhD study. Okay, otherwise you will be in very big trouble during your viva voce. Believe me, we don't want that to happen. Yeah. Okay, so that's why this is actually one of the very important chapter, because you need to really highlight the contributions. How to highlight the contributions? Like I said, you need to make sure the contributions you got is in line with the objective that you set in chapter 1. Eh? And after that, you need to point out your thesis limitations. Okay, so you need to ensure that the limitations that you already mentioned in research scope, research scope during in chapter 1 also. Okay, so that the examiners won't ask you anything outside your research scope during Viva Voce. And these limitations also will be suggested for your future study. Okay, why it is important? Because first, you need to tell the examiners that you won't do anything within the that which is outside your research scope. That is the one. Point two, you want to suggest the limitations as a guideline for anyone when you already finish your study. Okay, when they read your thesis, which is in your library anywhere in the world, maybe not only in your university, so they have any insights what to begin with for their research gap that you left from your thesis. Okay, so this is why it is important to propose the limitations for the future study. Okay, so I think that's all for my talk today. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for watching and listening. So if you do have any questions, so I will try to answer. Yeah, I will try as good to answer it for you, inshallah. I think that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Fatima.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hope our listener, including our research scholar, get information from your lecture. Now, I would like to introduce our second speaker, which is Professor Vijay B. Gadicha, who is currently Associate Professor in G.H. Raisoni University, Amravati, Maharastra. He has more than 15 years of experience in the field of computer science and engineering. He has done his Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Science and Engineering. He received the Experience of Outstanding Academician Award in the year 2020 and also recognized as Global General Secretary for the World Statistically Data Analysis Research Association. He has published more than 80 research papers in the international and national conferences and journal on different domains relevant to the computer technology. He has also delivered more than 50 expert talks and lecture on the various computer technologies. I request Dr. Vijay to tell us about the manuscript drafting which helped the student during the publication of their research paper. Dr. Vijay, sir, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Please acknowledge me whether I am audible properly or not. My voice is coming properly to everyone?
Your voice is clear, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for nice words and introduction. I congratulate the entire organizing team for organizing such a very, very wonderful program associated to research methodology. Because I recollect my old days of own research scholar when I had been to research college, So we need to go back to the libraries, search out number of papers, maybe sometimes take the photographs of that, and try to identify the facts and precepts which are there, which we need to obey for the research methodology. But these wonderful programs giving the exposure to the in-depth knowledge of the research methodology, which is highly appreciable, and I congratulate the entire organizing team for that. So now, without wasting any time, let me go to my presentation and share my presentation with you. Yeah, I hope my presentation is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir, it is clearly visible to us. Please, you may proceed.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I welcome you all for this session on research methodology, and in that specifically I'm going to talk about manuscript drafting and its publication. So before I switch on this technical topic and this technical discussion which I am targeting today, let me clarify every young researcher or research aspirant which is listening me that what is manuscript. So guys, when you draft a research paper, and it is yet to be presented in a conference, or maybe it is yet to be published in a journal, then such a draft, such an essay of your research work is called as manuscript. And when you go for its corresponding publications, then which journal to choose, which conference to go about, and what is actually publication process, what is peer reviewing, what is Scopus, and the other publication houses which are very, very renowned and reputed. So we're going to take a look at each of them, and we're going to discuss about them in the coming 45 minutes. So let me switch on today's session. Before I'll go anywhere, let me introduce all the outlines. The first and foremost thing which we are going to review today is the fundamentals of manuscript drafting. So what I presume over here when I start this session, I presume that nobody knows anything about research paper writing, right? So if you're not knowing anything about research paper writing, you're starting from scratch, this is the right session for you. You should listen it properly, so that you start drafting your manuscript at will, at your own. The second thing I'm going to convey that if we decided that, okay, I'm going to draft a research paper on the research work, then what actually are the contents inside it? What are the contexts which I'm going to invite and include in my research manuscript? So that discussion will be there, second point. And third point, I'm going to give you the details about the publication, that what is indexing, what are the impact factors, how to count it, what is peer reviewing process, how to get through that, etc., etc. So these are all the details which we are going to witness today. So let us switch on the button of today's discussion. Let us come into the technical details and talk about manuscript drafting. So as I told you right from the word go, then I'm going to give you each and every account of manuscript drafting, even if you are very, very starting researcher and you haven't drafted a single paper, So proceeding forward to that promise of mine, look, when you trying to draft a research manuscript or a manuscript for that sake, there are two broad categories, mind you. The first is review paper and next is research paper. Now let us try to understand. There are a number of categories, but then let us broadly categorize all the types of research manuscripts into the two types. Either you will be writing a review paper or you will be writing a research paper. Now what is a review paper and what is research paper? Look, both of these subtitles are very, very dependent upon your current research topic which you have chosen, to do the research in. Now when you say that, hey, I'm going to write review paper, so what it means? Look, it means you are exploring through the rich literature. You are exploring through the existing work which is already there, published by renowned researchers. Now, over here you are talking about the story of the existing literature, which is very closed and ideal to your system. But interestingly, what you can quote inside it is that, what is the progress of work? What are its limitations? Are there any challenges to the systems which are already existing? And if you manage to detail that story properly in the review paper itself, I guarantee you will get a publication even in Scopus, which is one of the reputed publication house. Now on the other end, so the mean to say is that, does review paper having options of innovation or options of creative idea to be embedded? The answer is yes. That means in review paper it's not compulsory to embed or to inculcate the innovations. Even if you are coming up with the comparative study, maybe limitations, maybe identification of research gap, and maybe identification of a problem solution, So even if you are telling that story and quoting it inside the review paper, this is sufficient to get shortlisted in good publication house to get published. But when you talk about research paper, now this is something interesting. Here you have to talk about the results which you got, the inferences which you have got, the observations which you might have got, the facts which you identified. You have to code all the experimental lab setup results inside the research paper. So this is how these two types of the research paper drafting are different from each other. And one, the rule of thumb you can obey in research paper is that, look, in research paper, innovations are mandatory. You compulsorily have to involve them. So I hope I managed to communicate the idea between the two, but let us try to observe some of the difference. What are the constituents of review paper? Look, in review paper, existing work associated to the current research work can be discussed with proper citation. So let's consider, say like you decided to work in cloud computing, or maybe security to provide data in clouds. So in review paper, you are going to write about the clouds, the way security enters into it, etc., etc. And whichever the context you are bringing to your manuscript, please give proper citation to the original authors of that. So this is what is expected from you to write in review paper. You are expected to write comparative study of various existing systems. So if you observe that, hey, out of these 10 papers which I explored, these 6 papers are having huge impact on my research title, which I am currently working upon. So you can give the comparative study between those 6 titles. That this is very efficient, this particular work is very, very speedy, this is providing more security, etc., etc. Now this comparison can be provided in the form of a table maybe, or maybe you can introduce some diagrams or graphical presentations. It's completely upon you. Right? After that, identification of research gap, which is very important. Now here, actually, your skill set of a researcher or author of a research paper can be tested. What actually happens? What is research gap identification? Let's try to understand this term. Look, you've gone through a rich literature survey from good publication house, and now you start analyzing that, hey, this work is providing these solutions, but still these are the challenges with this work. Still, these are the limitations of these work. So can we do something like that which will take out these limitations? Can we propose this methodology by virtue of which this challenge can be solved? So this can be a research gap identification. For that one, you need to have brainstorming session with your supervisors, with your guides, maybe experts in that domain. So this is how you can start identifying research gap, which actually leads to your research title. Summary and discussion, very, very important subsection which you can involve into the review paper, where you can discuss about the chronological, flow of the existing system, and then end up, by narrating the research gap, problem definition, and maybe probable implication of the proposed system. So these are all the things which you can code inside the review paper. So what is to be there in research paper? Look, in research paper, a clear and non-ambiguous problem definition must be given. Look, I have smartly used all the keywords. You can use them. It is not found on internet. You can search out. I'm saying that research paper should be having a clear and non-ambiguous problem definition. Look, the problem definition which you're going to quote over there, or the title of the research paper which you're going to quote over there, will be very, very clear. It should not be confusing, It should be very, very purposeful, very, very appealing, very, very hitting to a specific domain of technology or science. Proposed system must be discussed in detail. Now, why there is a need to discuss this? Because this is a problem solver section of your paper. This is going to provide the solution to your research title. So you may modularize it. You can divide it into the modules and keep on providing, keep on addressing the solution to each and every module. And by virtue of that, you can provide the solution to a big problem. So that's why proposed systems to be discussed in detail. Then what you can quote inside it is obtain results and its comparison to existing system. Very, very important thing, guys. Point number 3, if you want your papers to be seen in Coupas or Web of Science or maybe SCI, this point number 3, which is there, I'm quoting, should be very strong in your paper. Whatever the experimental results you have got, you have to compare these results with the existing systems, and then have to write an essay that how those are more appealing, those are more brighter, your observations about that. Everything should be put in. And then finally, you can talk about implications and remarks which you observed in the research paper. So these are the the detailed contents which you can keep inside the review paper or research paper. Now, even when you're writing any of the papers, then what should be the research content, especially when you're writing research paper? What should be the research content inside it? So we're going to see that. The first and foremost thing is the title itself, which should be very, very, unique and appealing. So we're going to discuss this in detail. Let me go through the list first. Then you have to write about the author and affiliation. So you may be astonished that can't we write about myself and the affiliation? Look, there are certain things which we need to navigate inside it as well. Then you have to write about abstract, very important thing. Maybe sometimes the acceptance of your Scoopers book chapters will be given on abstract only. So we have to write abstract carefully. Introduction, the first chapter of your paper. Literature review, proposed system, result analysis, and finally you have to do conclusion of the paper. So all these things are very, very needful to be included in your research manuscript. So let me start with the first things first, that is title of your manuscript. So how to decide the title of your manuscript. Look, when you're deciding the title of your manuscript, the proper keywords must be selected, which have the following attributes. Look, the string of words which I'm using over here is a keyword. So each and every word which is participating in your title is keyword. Look, your title of the research paper should be scientifically and technically justifiable. What I mean to say like this? I mean, if you're writing, say for example, I'm designing, or the title of your research paper is Design of Efficient Cloud Security System. So when you're giving such a sort of title, you have to define what is the meaning of efficiency. Is it a system which is having higher efficiency than the existing systems? And if it is so, then prove it, support that statement with quantities. So if you're quoting certain title of your manuscript, that should be scientifically and technically justifiable. You have to justify it with the results and quantification. It should reflect innovation, very important. You cannot afford to come up with the titles which are already executed, already done in the world. It should innovate. It should give the direction to the innovation, right? It must be appealing. So from appealing, I mean it should impact masses. It should have, its zone of scalability in the society. So if it is impacting various lives in the society, it really is an interesting title of research. It may lead to specific observations and interpretation, obviously, because science and technology is tremendously big domain, So your title should be addressing to a specific zone, specific area of science and technology. So these are all the constituents which the title should have. Now about the author. So when you're writing about the authors, you should be having, your mentioning of the first name and the middle name and the last name of the authors, or if you're having multiple authors, they should be mentioned properly with the proper salutations and all. Affiliations of the working organization. So where you're performing research, you should write about that. Affiliation of research lab or can be also included, or even if you're having some incubation facilities which is maybe given by government or some other privatization organizations, you have to mention them. So you write about yourself over here. Maybe sometimes you have to provide your email addresses, then mobile number, etc., etc. So you have to quote all these details. Okay, so we are done with title, we are done with the author, affiliations. Now we are progressing towards abstract. So when you're writing your abstract, what are the important things we need to take care of? Let's see the definition of its abstract itself. It says, an abstract is a summary of a research topic which used to help the reader to quickly get accustomed with the research work. So the mean to say is that it gives a short cameo about the title of the research. And obvious question which arises over here with the young researchers or the young authors of the research paper, they ask that, okay, sir, we understood about the formal definition of the abstract, but then tell me what to code inside it. So guys, when you have identified a research title, you should give the preamble of that research title, just basic introduction in 1.5 line, that is okay. Then come up with the recent world problem with that research title, that what actually the people looking out for as a solution, So quote it in another 1.5 line, and then maybe you can talk about that what you're providing in this research paper for 2 other lines. So keep on tell about maybe you can introduce a method's name or mechanism or something like that, and then keep on telling that what it can do, what are the probable implications, and how the world becomes a better place to live if this executes, if this work properly, So likewise, you can wind up your abstract in 6 to 8 lines, and then it should be followed by the keywords. And what are keywords? Keywords are the reserve words, the technical words which you have consumed in the abstract. So this is how you have to draft abstract. After that, introduction. So in introduction, the first and foremost thing you have to write is setting the preamble, setting the basic background about the topic. Say like for example, you are working on blockchain. So you have to talk about cybersecurity, you have to talk about providing data confidentiality, something like that. So you have to set the background, the initial introduction in preamble. Then the second very important thing which you write in introduction is motivation and need. Motivation tells that why actually you're working on this title. Who needs it in this society? Is there any government looking out for security solutions? Is there any bank which is needing this security solution? So why are you working on this? So you have to talk about that motivational study. Then aim of the research. So this is crucial. Then at the end of the day, here you need to narrate that at the end of the day, what you're trying to prove, where you're heading towards. You have to talk about that in aim. Then objectives, very important. I remember Madam was talking about objectives. Look, objectives are so very crucial thing. About objectives, maybe your research paper will be evaluated. Now these are the probable outcomes which you're trying to establish once the research is done. So you need to narrate that story in objectives. And finally, you have to talk about the scope, that where actually this research title can go. Who will use it? Which are the areas of society, which are the domains of this world are going to consume this. So you have to write about that. So if you can complete this essay, you will complete introduction. So these are all the points in the introduction. Then the second important chapter in your paper comes is literature review. So what is there in literature review? The first and foremost thing is about existing system. That means whatever the basic background or the already work which are functioning, which are exactly parallel or very very parallel to your own system or own research title which you're working upon, you have to mention about all them in existing systems. In comparison between various existing systems, which is very important point. Actually, it is the spinal cord of your paper if you're writing a review paper. But making comparisons of existing system means you have to talk that, okay, on this topic of blockchain, these 4 scientists already have proposed these algorithms which are working very fine, but still there are certain limitations, there are certain shortcomings which we need to take care of. And then you can keep on telling about their efficiency, their confidentiality, the time they consume to execute the algorithm, etc., etc. So you have to check all the parameters. You have to check all the coefficients when you're talking about the comparisons of existing systems. And this is so very crucial to write in your research paper. Maybe you can take the help of tables, maybe some graphical presentations, and by virtue of that, you can keep on showing them. Limitations of existing system, very very important. Here a researcher in you will get a chance to explore or to express himself. You have read some paper, and then now you have to identify what are the challenges to the system which you have gone through. Identify it and write it down in your manuscript. Summary and discussion. So here you have to write about a continuous essay which is telling a chronological story of existing systems work and what actually the issue is and how that issue can be addressed. So these are all the things which you can keep in the subsection of summary and discussion. Now finally we are coming to the big fish of your research manuscript, which is called as proposed system. So why it is so very vital and important? Because here we are going to mention the clear-cut problem definition with our research title. This research title, what sort of problems it's going to be solved in the world. And then once you're done with the problem definition, you have to talk about what is the basic idea. What is the solution? How you're going to crack the ice, So you have to say that, okay, this is the procedure which I'm going to follow, say 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the steps which will provide the solution to this problem. There are proposed idea using mathematical model, design, block diagram, algorithm. You need to include these things. because these are going to give the backup to your proposed system, and these are going to act as an evidence of solution to your proposed system. So like if you're introducing a mathematical model, maybe like you're supporting a solution by Taylor series or Maclaurin series or something like that, and then proving that hey, if Taylor series work for these quantities, it's going to also work for my own problem, which is narrated by me. Maybe a DFD, or maybe a UML diagram, or maybe a flow chart will be proposed by you, which is going to provide the solution to the problem. So by virtue of these things, you can provide the evidence, the technical evidence to solve a problem. Then you have to discuss in proposed system about probable outcomes or implications. Okay, if my system hits, if the system works, then these are the probable outcomes which we will get. Okay. So this was about the proposed system, the entire story. And then comes about result analysis. So whatever you obtained in the experimental laboratories, you have to discuss over here about that. Analyzing the obtained outcomes with the results of existing system using independent tool. Now let us understand this. This is crucial. Look, you have obtained certain results while performing the research, right? And now, whatever the research results you have obtained, let us compare these results with the already existing system's results. Say, for example, what is the efficiency of your system in comparison to the efficiency of already existing systems? And to measure that, use some standard tools. Maybe like, for example, you can use MATLAB, Scilab, Python, or R. These are very standard and independent tools which are recognized all across the world. You cannot afford to come up with a tool which is customized by you and say that, sir, on this tool my results are very brighter. No, you cannot afford to do that. You have to use a neutral tool, a standardized tool, and by virtue of that, you can prove that how your results are handsome than the existing system's results. Okay. Then it is further recommended to prove the obtained results using multiple tools or multiple parameters. Yes, please don't stick to some set of parameters. Be versatile and try to prove your result, which are you obtained from the experimental setup of yours, handsome, by working upon different parameters and different standardized tools as well. I named some of the tools and parameters. Please practice them and code them in your research manuscript. Believe me, you're going to get acceptance from SEI even. Now, results can be shown by using graphical presentations, maybe graphs or pie charts or tables you can use, and by virtue of that you can prove that, hey, look, my research results which I obtained in my own setup is performing brighter, performing more efficient, they are speedy than the existing system results. And this is what the innovation world is looking for. And this is what the expression you have to put across to prove the real mettle of your research. Now, in conclusion, what you're going to write is that you need to narrate the proposed system accomplishments. Look, proposed system accomplishments means what? That means whatever the work you proposed, when it is completed, what are the establishments you have obtained? You have to talk about that. In introduction, when you written the abstract, you are moving towards the solution, but in conclusion, you have to talk about the solutions which you have obtained. And in conclusion, you can also mention some future scope if it is to be proceeded and to be covered. But if it is very close to your research work, please don't mention it. Let us have a dialogue with the expert or maybe your supervisor, and then please put this future scope in your manuscript. Then this is very interesting fact nowadays, which is following the protocols of ethical research or research ethics. Even I used to have this special session on ethics as well. Now this thing is so very crucial. Once you are done and written all the manuscript of yours, please check its plagiarism. The plagiarism is an act of presenting somebody's work as your own ideas. Please don't do that. It is not ethical research practice. So if you can see this the picture which I hold it the right bottom corner, so somebody is taking out the plagiarized content from your research manuscript. So you can use any electronic tool. There are a number of electronic tools nowadays available, like Turnitin or Rukund or a number of other, Black Check, etc. So these tools will enable the checking in your content that whether those are plagiarized or not. And if it is having a severe degree of plagiarism, please remove it and try and see that the plagiarism of your paper should be less than 15% or maybe less than 10%, then it will be a high quality paper. Of course, the technical ingredients should be there. Now, once we are done with all these, manuscript drafting, we know that we have performed ethical research, and then we have to go towards the publication. Now, when it comes to publication, what are the precautions we need to take? Look, every reputed journal follows peer review process. Now, peer review process means the technical or scientific scrutiny, which is done by competent people. Fine. So let me go and tell you about the reviewing process. Peer reviewing is the evaluation of your work from one or more experts with similar concepts or competence as the author of that particular work. Look, what happens when you're saying peer reviewing? That means there are multiple tiers of investigation or fact finding in your manuscript. Maybe like you can have 2 reviewers or 3 reviewers or 4 reviewers. Recently, one of my PhD scholar was working on one of paper, and she submitted it in Scopus, and her manuscript was investigated by 4 reviewers. So this is what the peer review process is all about. So you're having multiple tiers, multiple phases where from your paper should go across, and every reviewer find out the technical quality into it, the scientific quality into it, and then either it will be accepted or rejected, or maybe the time is given to update that to an author. Then the third line of the slide says peer review process is intended to serve as a filter to ensure that high quality research will be published. Yes, and there will be obvious question from your side that, sir, why this peer review process will be at all, kept before publication, so that the qualitative research will be published, and the upcoming researcher should read the quality research. So that's why peer review process is crucial, and it is implanted over there. Here is the pictorial presentation that how actually peer review process takes place. So let me explain this step by step to everyone so that you will understand that what actually this is. Initially, the article is submitted to the editor of that journal. Fine. So if editor of the journal himself thinks so that this article is of no way mean, it doesn't have that technical quality to publish in a specific journal, then he himself can reject it. Okay, and he can send the email to you that your paper is rejected. But if editor or editorial board member says, or they reckon so that this paper is of quality, then they can forward this to some reviewers. Okay, and then these reviewers will further forward this for the review access. If the reviewers pretend so the technical quality is missing, they can send you the rejection. Or if this sense that yes, this paper is very, very nice, then they will give you acceptance. But if they think so that no, there are some sections which need to be revised, so they can send you the revision email, and then author have to resubmit it, and then this cycle may again evolves. But once your paper get accepted, then it goes to production house where they ask you CRC and all those things, and finally it will get published after a stipulated duration of the time. So this is how actually the publication process will be conducted. Now, when you are publishing in a journal, what are the things you need to check? The first and foremost thing which you need to check is its impact factor. Now, how impact factor at all will be calculated? The impact factor is calculated by this below given formula, saying that number of articles cited divided by number of articles published. Say like, for example, there is an X journal and they have published 100 articles in 2021, and out of the 100 articles, if 50 articles are cited by various authors across the world, then the impact factor of the journal will be 0.5, 50 by 100. Similar example, say like if a journal is publishing say 100 articles in 2020 and 200 citations it gets, in some manuscripts, then the impact factor of the journal will be 200 by 100. Okay, so likewise the impact factor of the journal you need to check that what is the impact factor. Then ISSN, which is allocated to each and every research article, so whether that journal is having ISSN or not. If you're publishing a book chapter or for that sake a book, then it should be having ISBN. It should be International Standard Book Number. By mistake, it came over here as serial number. Then journal should be peer reviewed. It should follow the peer reviewing process. That is important. And it must be listed in these reputed publication lists like Scoopers, SCI, Web of Science, or maybe UGC Care, etc., etc. So thank you very much. I think I wind up the discussion probably in 40 minutes, and I'll be more than happy to solve any queries if we have, or if you want to reach out to me to discuss any discussions. So these are some of the details which I've given. You can just reach out to me, and I wish you good luck for your publications, and I wish that you're going to come up with the ethical research which is so very demanded in this world today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay, sir. There is a question from a research scholar, Dr. Garima. She wants to ask that what is the impact of pandemic on research design before the pandemic time and conducted during or just after the pandemic? Please, Dr. Vijay, sir, please want to explain this. I think there is some internet issue with Dr. Vijay, sir.
Hello, yeah, I lost the connection. Yeah, there's a question which is visible to me. Hello?
Yes, sir. Please answer this question of Dr. Garima.
Yeah, am I supposed to answer this question?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, Garima is asking this. She's saying that what is the impact of pandemic on research design before pandemic time, conducted during or just after the pandemic? Look, Garima, we know that pandemic is a very dangerous thing which whole of the world has faced, a number of regrets and depressions we have gone through. But one thing which I want to share with you is that if you really want to publish in qualitative research publication houses, like I given some of the name, Scoopus is there, SEI is there, Web of Science is there. They don't give you any concession as such, and you need to come up with the qualitative results, qualitative research content. Then only the acceptance will be given to you. Otherwise, they may reject your paper on the quality of the technical content. Obviously, plagiarism is first and foremost eligibility, but the quality of the scientific content and quality of the technical content should be there. Regardless of the pandemic which has occurred. I hope I answered your query, Karima.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable time and information. Hope we will conduct this lecture in future also. Now I will request Dr. Manoj Kapil sir, who is Dean and Principal of Faculty of Engineering and Technology. He will give a vote of thanks to our both of speaker. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mayank. First of all, I place my sincere thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor Swami Vivekanand Subharti University for his valuable talk and his inspiration to work on research and innovation. I also place my sincere thanks to this speaker, Dr. Fatma Mohamad, Associate Professor in Department of Informatics and Computing in University Zainal, Abidin, Malaysia. I'm very thankful for you for accepting this invitation, and the things that she conveyed are valuable information for a student of engineering and sciences. And the students should pay special emphasis on the points before going for the research, because she has a much clarity about the research gaps, and all the things that she has told over here are very good for the research scholar. I extend my thanks to the second speaker, a very energetic speaker, Professor Dr. Vijay Gadicha, Associate Professor G.H. Raisoni, University, Amravati, Maharastra. He focused on certain areas which should be taken into consideration before manuscript drafting, because these days, as what the scholars are doing, they skip many of the parameters that Dr. Vijay has focused on, and those parameters are very, very essential, very, very significant to be taken into the concern before drafting a manuscript. So it is a very valuable talk. I also extend my thanks and blessings to the coordinator of this event, Dr. Mukesh Rohela and Dr. Mankeshwar. I appreciate their initiative, without which this important and successful program could not have taken place. I am very thankful to the media and technical team of Marketing and Communication Department, SVSU Meerut. I am thankful to all the viewers. Thank for your presence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your vote of thanks. Now I request our both speaker that hope we will soon conduct much more session with both of you in future also. And thank you for sharing your valuable time and information so that our student get more information about how the manuscript writing processes and research methodology for the student of science and engineering. Thank you both of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.